So week 4, September 22nd, you can see it's there's a lot of stuff here in this module because they really want to supply you with a lot of resources for writing your resume. The purpose of me coming in is to actually give you a feel for how to write a resume now. Some of you may have some engineering experience, some of you may not, but as you've gone along in your coursework at Cabrillo, you certainly have gotten skills that you could write on your resume. So that's really what I'm going to be concentrating on. So we're going to look at, the files here that are under me as a guest lecturer. But I want to scroll down a little bit and notice they've already put a ton of information under here about resume guides and tips for writing resumes. Debbie is the technical writer among us, so she has a lot of suggestions, and she's probably seen more resumes than anybody else. And Kendall, I'm sure you've seen some too, and Carl, when you were hiring engineers, you ran through resumes as well. But there's a ton of information here. San Jose State has a big resume advice information page. And then certainly Cabrillo does too. The student employment, if you go to the student employment page where you get your application if you're going to work on campus, they have a resume guide and they run workshops. And I'm imagining that their workshops, they are still running workshops, but they'll be virtual. But there's a ton of information here and you should take a look at it. But we're just going to get started in we're just going to go in. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to pull up under my name is a template. And let's just take a look at this to start. And I put this together from various past students we've had who wanted to share the skills they got in some classes and show that to potential engineering employers. So I'm opening up in a new tab. And can everybody see the resume? Yeah, everybody could see it? Okay, so let's take a look up here. We're looking at, name, address, city, California. You always spell things out when you write resumes. Don't just put CA. And notice the phone numbers in here, but what's missing? What's another way you get?
An email?
An email, right? They communicate mainly by email. So you want to make sure your email is here. So if you look at this, you already have 5 lines. And depending on how much information you put in here, you might actually decrease this. Maybe your name will be top. The second line might be your street address and city in California and zip. And then maybe the third line would be your phone number and your email. And I'd probably put email first, then phone number. But this really, depending on how many lines it's going to be, is really going to be dependent on how much you have here. So right now, the biggest thing you have going for you, with the exception of those of you who have worked in engineering, you're really relying on the skill set that you have from your courses, your engineering courses. So we have, let's just look at the categories first. Objective, what are you trying to get out of a job? What is your education? And we write expected because that's when you're, because you don't have the degree yet. What scholastic achievements, what academic achievements do you have? Do you have any scholarships? Then your skill set. And then below that is your experience. And you could imagine that if you've been working in engineering for 10 years, you really don't need a skills category because probably most of those skills you have used in your jobs. So when you list your jobs, you're listing your skill set. And then affiliations, those of you that have been in clubs or community activities, certainly you want to list that. And then hobbies. And the reason to list hobbies is quite often that's maybe the first thing you talk about in an interview. They'll say, oh, you like to sail. And then they just look for a little bit about you to just be an icebreaker in a conversation. So let's go back up. So now an objective. You notice that this objective is very general. Obtain a position in an engineering firm to gain experience as a future engineer. This really is too generic. But let's say you wanted a position, if you're interested in mechanical engineering, Obtain a position in an engineering firm to gain experience as a future mechanical engineer. That's a little bit more specific, but the fact that you could edit your resume every day, you should make your objective to be specific to the job that you're looking at. Okay? And both Kendall and Carl stepped away, so I'm wondering, you know, if there are questions in the chat. Oh, okay, you guys are there. Would somebody monitor the chat in case there are questions?
Yeah.
And those of you who do have your mics on, you could just call out, okay, and just stop me. So the purpose of an objective is really to make it specific to the job that you're looking at. Maybe it's a machine shop job, working in a machine shop. Maybe it's working in a bike shop. Maybe it's working as a surveyor or an intern engineer at the County of Santa Cruz. You would want to make that specific. In terms of your engineering education, many of you may or may not get, the AS degree in engineering at Cabrillo, because you could transfer without that AS degree. But the fact that you're not at a 4-year school yet, you might want to write AS engineering in case you do get it, or just to show where you are right now in the educational process. I mean, another thing you could do is if you know you're going to go to San Jose State, you could also write BS Civil Engineering, San Jose State, and also put your expected graduation date. So everybody understands this would be expected graduation date. And then any achievements you've had. All of you should be applying for the engineering department scholarship. We give out about 15 to 25,000 every year in scholarships. You really should apply. And most of the scholarships that have been fundraised have been with alumni, and each of the scholarships have a different designation name. So I just wrote this kind of generic, but you would write down the name of the scholarship you got or any award you got. And some of you are in the Cabrillo College Honors Program. So you would write Cabrillo College Honors Program. And I'd also write your GPA if it's over 3.5. Okay, so these are your achievements. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing for a moment and just take a look at everybody. Questions so far? So objective, education, and any academic honors.
I have a question.
Yeah, Manuel.
How do we go about dealing with it if we find a posting maybe on LinkedIn or somewhere where there's going to be a lot of candidates, and I know sometimes before a hiring manager even looks at it, they run it through software. How would you recommend dealing with that?
I think in this case, that's probably more of a question for Debbie and Kendall and Carl to address. I think my piece right here is just to kind of show you that you already have skills to apply for an engineering internship or an engineering job, not as an engineer, but as an intern. And many times engineering students at Cabrillo will tell me, oh no, you know, I never worked in engineering, I don't have any skills. And I want to impart upon you that you do have skills. And what I'm trying to do, my role here is really to communicate those types of skills that you could put on them. In terms of how they run through and the verbiage and stuff, I'm going to pass that on to the Engineering 10 faculty. Okay. Okay, another question?
Yeah,
Okay.
just a quick question.
Yeah.
For your header, you include a street address. What is that being used for, and why should we put it on there?
Debbie, do you know if street addresses should be on still?
You're muted, Debbie.
Yeah, it always takes me a while to find myself in my mute button.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No problem.
So generally, I don't think street addresses are that useful anymore. And
Okay.
later in this semester, we'll do a LinkedIn profile. That's usually a good thing to put there too. But the city and the state, those are still useful because employers a lot of times will want to know if they have to relocate you. That's one of their things sometimes. So at least where you're located is good, but you don't necessarily need your street address because they're not going to mail you an application package or an offer letter or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank
Alright,
you, Debbie.
thank you.
Is that good, August?
Yeah, that answered my question.
Okay, great. I mean, the most resumes that I've seen more recently have been in terms of academia, faculty finding positions. And like Debbie said, I do want to know where they're coming from. Okay, let's go back to sharing then.
One more question.
Yeah.
Were you saying that we should, for every job, we should be changing the objective pretty much?
Yeah, it's supposed to be fit for that position.
Okay.
Okay. And also at some time today or when you're working on resumes, I think you each should give each other feedback also, because some of you have had engineering internships, and it'll be good to find out what you've learned from the process and what has helped in terms of resumes. Okay. Okay. I'm going to go back to the resume then template. Okay. I'm going to jump down to experience and then come back to skills. So you could see my resume, right? Or the resume I have up here. You guys?
Yes, we
Give me a
can.
thumbs up. Okay. Okay. So let's say this particular student, again, had a mechanical engineering internship, and the way I organized this, notice I organized all the headings on the left and all the dates on the left. This isn't how it has to be, but you want to make sure that it is organized, because typically people are not going to spend that much time looking at a resume. Okay. So the way I did it is headings on the left with dates. And then here is the title, Mechanical Engineering Intern. And then I put the company and the location. And then I have bullets talking about what types of jobs the person has had. Okay. Notice it was in the summer of 2018. So it's a past job. It's not present. Okay. So all the action verbs, you should always start off resumes with action verbs, and you want to use good, strong words. You don't want to say was this or made that. I mean, made is better, assembled was better than made, or fabricated is better than made. A thesaurus on Word is really helpful. And I do have in my in the Canvas page, I do have some good, strong action verbs that you can use. And then this, well, certainly they're missing the other date, but this person happened to be a counselor at an outdoor science school. And so even though this is non-engineering related, it still shows that this was a person who was a counselor, and they really were teaching leadership skills and teamwork skills. And those two skill sets are very important in engineering, teamwork especially, and leadership. So even though you might say, well, this isn't an engineering job, you still can communicate some of those soft skills in engineering. Okay? So this probably may have been the second resume the person made, because notice they would have had to write a resume to get this engineering internship. So once they had an experience of working as an engineering intern, any of the skills you originally had in that first resume are probably moved down to here. And the only skills that are up on the top now have to do with skills that have not been communicated in your job. Okay? Okay, so let's look at some skill sets. Skill set, sorry. So this person had done some design work, made a skateboard deck, bamboo stuff. So this is showing that the person has hands-on skills, which quite often is very important as an intern. Okay. Another one, also communicating hands-on skills. They did both mechanical work and electrical work. And another. So you see these three categories. The first one is showing design, but it's also showing hands-on skills along with the hands-on skills here. So this is a desirable student to get as an intern. So those of you who are, let's say, going into civil engineering, maybe you can't find a civil engineering intern in the summer, but what you can do is work in construction in the summer. Get some hands-on experience. Those of you who are interested in mechanical, maybe you don't get a job in the summer as an intern, but maybe you could work as a bike shop or work at a machine shop. get some hands-on experience. Because quite often when you are hired after your bachelor's degree, the first thing they do with new interns is put them out in the field, and the field could be in a machine shop, because they want you to know how to build things before you design them. Engineers who design things never building anything are going to screw up their designs because they're not going to be very buildable. So you should look for hands-on projects, you know, and they don't have to be working for someone else. You could be putting in a deck in the summer, helping somebody put up a shed in the summer. Do things like that to get experience. And I'm mentioning that's for civil engineers, but even if you're going into mechanical engineering, building anything is helpful. Okay. All right. So this person has had skills, hands-on skills. Then it looks to me like this person took engineering 25, right? Manual, commutative drafting, orthographic, sectional, obliques, isometrics. You know all those words if you took engineering 25. And that's a really important skill, and you already have it. Probably almost all of you, maybe except for the electrical engineers in the class, have already taken this class, engineering 25. Okay. And maybe the person has even taken engineering 26, and I'm looking ahead and I'm looking under software. I see that the person took AutoCAD, so they probably took 25, and they took Creo, so they must have taken engineering 26 before we were teaching SolidWorks. But those of you who took engineering 26 and 25, you have AutoCAD experience, you have Creo experience, and you have SolidWorks. Yeah, you're not a pro. You just took the courses, you know, but you know how to use them. Okay. And if you can even put a little caveat next to AutoCAD or Creo. You could say amateur is not the right word. Carl, Kendall, Debbie, could you give me a good word? I mean, maybe introductory?
Novice?
Introductory class.
I was gonna say like a type of
coursework?
class, like
From coursework, maybe. We could think more about that, but certainly, you know, if you are very experienced, you would want to make sure that you're writing down you're very experienced. Okay. And this Final Cut Pro, I believe, is a tool that's in the makerspace at Cabrillo. So that's another thing. Get a job in the makerspace. Well, granted, we're in COVID right now, but if you're at Cabrillo another year, get a job there or even volunteer there. Like Robert, in doing your 2 projects with Holding the Hand Club, you guys made a prosthetic hand for an 11-year-old boy, and then you made a keyboard guard for a musician who has, I believe it was cerebral palsy.
Yep.
And in that case, you didn't get paid doing that, but you were a leader in a club and you designed this stuff and you used the equipment and it is used by someone. That's an amazing skill. Okay. And then this person, oh, I forgot this one, research, testing, analysis. Let's figure out what class this is from. Fabricated composite samples and operated a Tinius Olson equipment to test samples in tension and da-da-da-da. What class is that? You guys? Carl's smiling.
Materials.
It's a materials class. It's engineering 45. So if you took engineering 45, that's another thing. You have experience doing testing of materials. Circuits. I didn't put circuits on here because probably the person who wrote the resume hadn't taken circuits yet. But in the circuits lab, you're learning how to analyze circuits by hand and also using simulation tools, PSpice and something else.
Quick question.
Yeah, I'm going to step out for now.
I was just
Yeah.
going to say on
Yeah.
software
Yes.
and related stuff, is it still worth putting something like Microsoft Office on there, or is it just assume that you know how to use Word and Excel and all of that?
Yeah, good question. I think the answer is it's not worth it to put it, but Debbie might, she's more the expert.
It seems like it depends if you're applying for a job. So the job that I was doing as technical writer, it's pretty important that you know those things. So they would want to know if you know Word or FrameMaker or all the different kind of writing tools that you would know. So, and you know, it depends on the job. If